Howdy, and welcome back to episode 27 of the Back of the End Zone podcast. I'm Josh Reisnick here with Bryant Koleski. And man, interesting week in college football this past week. And a lot of our early preseason picks from before the season even started, we're going to get into it, but a lot of our
kind of been shot.
Yeah, they've been contradicted for sure. And a lot of our picks of like just quarterback play and even teams that we thought would stand out and do a great job really haven't. And I mean, that happens. We're definitely not experts and we've made some crappy picks. But I mean, some interesting games this week too, especially in the SEC.
Yeah, Alabama at A&M, Kentucky on the road to Georgia, LSU going into an undefeated Missouri team. That's very shocking. You know, you think LSU to be the one undefeated in that matchup, but they aren't. At the Red River Shootout, undefeated matchup for the first time since like 2010 or 12. I don't know when the last time it was an undefeated matchup.
And then you got undefeated Maryland, the one Power 5 team left that's undefeated that is not ranked, headed to Columbus playing Ohio State there. Number 4 Ohio State coming off the bye. A couple other really big games too, and we'll get into that in our Week 6 Pick'em segment with Taylor Tanner a little later. Taylor Tanner is a kid that's in one of our classes, a couple of our classes. Great kid, great personality.
Equipment manager for the football team.
Not a kid, but
great kid.
Yeah, but we'll get into it with Taylor for our Week 6 picks this week. But I mean, before we get into segment 1, like what are we talking about today?
I'm gonna break down this Georgia-Auburn game. I feel like Auburn punched above their weight, and we'll get into that. Also, want to kind of do a little preview of Bama A&M, and we're gonna also in our segment two, we're gonna do a right and wrong since we're halfway through the season. Just about, we're gonna do like what we were right about, what we were wrong about in our preseason predictions. I was wrong about a lot, but I think I was also right about a lot. So we'll see.
I think we're wrong about everything, but I mean, hey, we'll dive right into it. Here comes segment 1, baby. Before we dive into segment 1, we would just like to thank 251 Poolworks for sponsoring segment 1. They're family owned and operated. 251 Poolworks offers pool cleaning, maintenance, and repair. They serve the greater Mobile, Baldwin County, and Pensacola areas. And if you're needing any monthly pool cleaning service and or repair, give them a call at 251-978-7736 for the Poolworks. We can't thank them enough for sponsoring this segment.
And we had to re-record this because the government decided they wanted to do their national emergency thing during this. No, I'm joking. But we're going to open up discussing this Auburn-Georgia game. Auburn, like I said in the intro, punched above their weight this weekend. Only losing to Auburn by 7. Led for most of the game. Kept it very close.
Hold up. After this game, you're telling me the Bulldogs are still number 1 in the AP poll.
Yeah, I mean, they are until they're not. They're still...
I mean, yeah, they haven't lost a game since what, 20?
Since the SEC championship, 2021.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when Auburn got dismantled by A&M, I thought maybe that would bring Auburn down a peg to where maybe they weren't as competitive as we thought. But then again, this game was in Georgia. I mean, it was in Jordan Hare. Anything can go on in Jordan Hare. I've said it multiple times. Josh doesn't really know because he's never been to Jordan Hare, never been to a game there. He doesn't know the atmosphere. But it is straight voodoo what goes on there, whatever happens. I mean, the wild games that's been played in Jordan Hare. But no, I thought Auburn played a really solid game. If they had any kind of passing game, they would have won this game.
Seriously though, and like Peyton Thorne went off rushing wise, led the team in rushing with 92 yards. Actually beat anyone else out rushing wise. He had 92 rushing yards, but passing wise, 10 for 19, almost 50%, and only 82 yards in a pick. Like, I understand you're playing Georgia's defense, but the fact that, that was atrocious, the way that he played.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that it's Georgia's defense, but the fact that they were in that game, they lost by 7 points, and that's how he played. It's like,
and now I wouldn't say it's all on Peyton Thorne because 6 of the 9 passes that he had that were incomplete were drops. So the receiving corps still got to step up, and that'll come with recruiting. Hugh Freeze is going to do it. I mean, this is going to probably be the weakest Auburn team under Hugh Freeze. I think they're going to be a lot better, especially next year
recruiting cycle. Yeah.
So you better enjoy getting to roll over them while you can this season, because they are going to be. I mean, say what you want about Hugh Freeze as a person. He's a great coach, and he can. But the thing that stood out to me was 219 rushing yards given up by Georgia. We hadn't seen the Georgia defense do that in a while. What hurt them was the quarterback run game. Obviously, with Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford, kind of got them. Which that makes me happy since we have a rushing quarterback at Alabama. So if we end up facing Georgia in the SEC championship, we know what their Achilles heel.
It could go your way. Yeah, 100%. But I mean, then looking at it too, obviously Carson Beck had one of his better games, but I wouldn't say that was Carson Beck. I would say that's all credit to Brock Bowers because he had one hell of a game against Auburn. And I mean, Auburn's defense just couldn't stop him. But I mean, there's not many defenses in the country that can stop Brock Bowers from what he's capable of doing. He's obviously, clearly, best tight end in the country, and he's just near impossible to stop. And
I mean, and the thing with Georgia is they're especially their offense. Now their defense will probably figure it out. I mean, Kirby is the one of the best defensive minds in the game. He can coach defense. The offense is what's got to step it up. They only rushed for 107 yards combined. Dewan Edwards for Georgia only rushed for 76 yards. Now he had 2 touchdowns. Those were mainly on the goal line. But they got to step up on offense. They got to find somebody other than Brock Bowers to step up. Or when they're in game, I don't know why Auburn's defense didn't adjust to Brock Bowers. I mean, I'd put 2 or 3 guys on Brock Bowers.
Yeah, seriously. It's kind of like Marvin Harrison Jr. Like for Ohio State, he's always at least double covered. And it's like with Brock Bowers, you got to put like your best guys there. Like put a linebacker on him in a corner or have a safety spy. And like they weren't doing that.
So offensively, Auburn, Georgia's got to step it up. I think they'll figure it out on defense. I don't think they're going to have any problems on defense, but offensively, I want to see them step up. They're going to play a really good Kentucky team this weekend. That could potentially upset them. But we'll get into that more, when we make those picks.
Yeah, but I mean, another game I want to look at from this past week. I think this was the game, arguably the game of the week.
It was. I know what you're getting.
LSU at Ole Miss. I mean, that game was absolutely crazy.
It's bonkers.
And yeah, it was bonkers. And I mean, obviously, Ole Miss won 55-49. And I think Ole Miss deserved to win that game. I think watching that game, I was pissed for. Obviously, I'm not an Ole Miss fan, but I was pissed for Ole Miss when they had that touchdown catch that was called back. And I mean, I'm pretty sure it wasn't even called a touchdown from the start. And obviously, RG3 was color commentating that game. RG3 was like, that is a clear catch. And it was a clear catch. But then the ref comes out after the 5-minute review and says it wasn't. And then all these Ole Miss fans are throwing shit all over the field. And I mean, then obviously after the fact, they came back in the game. Jackson Dart had a hell of a game, passed for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I mean, they slowed down Jaden Daniels. I mean, Jaden Daniels still had one hell of a game too. Obviously, over 100 points scored in this game. And
this game saw a lot of offense, over 1,300 yards offense. LSU's defense, I don't think I've ever seen an LSU defense give up this many yards. 711 total yards of offense. Now, Ole Miss, on the other hand, didn't fare too well either. They gave up 500 yards worth of offense. So it was like over 1,300 yards worth of offense.
Ole Miss actually gave up 637 yards. Both teams had over 600 yards. I mean, and Ole Miss over 700. And I mean, there was only one total turnover the whole game. Both offenses were dominating, and the defenses were shot.
And that turnover wasn't really costly because it was early in the game. But I was shocked to see Ole Miss come out on top of this one. Ole Miss, they're still, even with the loss to Bama, they're still right back in the
easily back in the talk for
the West, for the SEC West. And LSU still, I mean, even with the loss to Ole Miss, they're still on. They have 2 losses, so they're probably out of the playoff race, but they're still not out of the race for the SEC West. They only have 1 conference loss, so I mean they could run the table as well. The SEC West is about to get a lot more interesting, and that leads us, that will lead us into our preview of Bama A&M, because that's a huge game that will determine the West as well. So.
Yeah, easily. But another game I kind of want to dive into, which kind of will lead us in a little bit in a segment too, with picks that we got right and wrong from the start of the year to now. But I mean, at Colorado, man, USC and Colorado, we didn't even pick this game last week because I think we were both at a state where we were kind of upset with the way that Colorado was overhyped, obviously, by the media. And then they play number 8 USC at home. And USC started off that game in complete control, completely dominating Colorado. Obviously, Brandon McCartney was not upset about that from the start. I saw a Snapchat story, and he was like really upset with how Colorado was playing. But then they came back, and like we said before the episode, Colorado, like USC, really showed that they still do not have a defense. They gave up 41 points to Colorado, let them come back. Colorado almost should have won that game at home with the way that they played in the fourth quarter. They outplayed USC in the second half. And the fact that they lost that game is heartbreaking, obviously, for Colorado. But USC really needs to step it up and have shown that they're still the same old USC. They're still the same old team under Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley never has a defense. They're only good offensively. Obviously, Caleb Williams had over 400 passing yards and 6 touchdowns. But, man, defensively, they just gave up a lot.
My thing is with USC, how long can you continue to waste this talent with Caleb Williams? You're not going to have – now, granted, Lincoln Riley does have a lot of quarterback talent. He knows how to develop quarterbacks. But you're not going to have Caleb Williams forever. He's probably going to go pro after this year. No matter what his dad says, he's probably going to go pro. He might be a Chicago Bear. With this defense, man, you give up 498 yards, and you give up, total yards. You give up.
USC gave up 564 yards. Colorado gave up 498.
That's right. But yeah, you give up 564 total yards. You give up 371 in the passing game, almost 200 yards rushing. So it's eventually you're going to play a team like Washington or Oregon who has a defense also to compete with you.
It's game over.
And it's eventually going to come back to bite you, and it's always done that for Lincoln Riley. He still has the same old defensive coordinator, still doesn't really recruit defense. He's tried to through their portal, but it's not working. And I said it before last week. This was their truest test on defense this far, and they missed the mark.
And this was a big test too for Colorado. We continue to talk about it, but the Pac-12 right now is just they really are dominant. And I think that if Colorado had Travis Hunter, that could have been the game changer right there. And I guess you can't really say that, but at the same time, if they would have had him, who knows if Caleb Williams would have passed as well as he did, or if Shador may have had a couple extra passing yards. You never know.
And Colorado's got a chance to get back on the winning side of things this week against Arizona State. We'll see that game. So you never know. But I don't know, man. USC's schedule, they play Arizona this week, but after that, it does not get easy. Looking ahead for USC, you're at Notre Dame, then you got Utah, then you got I'm trying to scroll down. You got Washington, you got Oregon. You play the toughest teams in the Pac-12, and you have yet to figure out your defense.
No, and like we were saying too, the Pac-12. Before the season, we were talking about the Pac-12 was going to be pretty trashy. We didn't expect much from the Pac-12, and looking at who was going to come out on top. But looking at it now, the Pac-12 is one of the better Power 5 conferences. I would say they're the best. You probably wouldn't agree with that because the SEC just means more. But I would say that the Pac-12 is the best conference in college football right now. The Heisman is definitely coming out of the Pac-12 with all of their – I'm going to continue to hype it up every single week. But, man, the Pac-12 is hot right now, and I don't see them being stopped. So,
well, we'll see. But we'll see. A lot of seasons still have to be played. Pac-12 can still cannibalize itself to where a team doesn't make it to the playoffs. So we'll see but then you can't deny that they've been on another level, especially in their last season. But you never know.
Yeah, then again, but now that's going to dive us right into segment 2 where we talk a little bit about our right and wrong picks from the beginning of the year, and then we'll go into our
that's gonna be fun.
Our pick'em segment. But
all right, before we start segment 2, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Now Fitness. Now Fitness is a gym and fitness center based in Groveville, Alabama. They do personal training, group sessions with CrossFit and other workouts. They also help local athletes get in their best shape and train. Call 251-269-3069 or 3065 for more. We can't thank them enough. Go get a workout in, baby.
Yeah, got to get in shape, baby. But, there's some college football teams right now that really need to get in shape. And some teams that we didn't expect to be playing as crappy as they are now. And to open up the gate, Clemson. Clemson football,
Yeah.
man, we really had high expectations for them going into the season.
Yeah.
And then obviously week 1, like Duke shocks the world and Riley Leonard comes out there and like has his like moment, his Messiah moment. And like literally though, like we were expecting Clemson to have such a good year. Obviously,
I think we both picked Clemson to win the ACC.
No, we both did. And we both debated about the fact that Florida State would be up there too. We talked about how Florida State would be really good under Mike Norvell. But we both thought, all right, Garrett Riley going to Clemson, leaving TCU.
What he did at TCU.
Yeah, exactly. Like great offensive mind, great offensive coordinator. And we really thought that he was going to turn around Cade Klubnik. And obviously not.
Yeah.
And like you look at DJU leaving, and I mean it was better for him.
He's having success at Oregon State.
I mean, and he's not doing the greatest job at Oregon State, but Oregon State's doing a more effective job running the ball.
Yeah.
But
and this is like our right and wrong segment. I mean, we were probably wrong about most of this stuff, but we still halfway into the season, we still want to kind of take a look back at some of our predictions and see what has come to light, what hasn't. And I can tell you what I was wrong about. LSU. I had such high hopes for LSU, especially after what Brian Kelly did in his first year at LSU. I mean, the way he was able to, they didn't start the season off last year in the best way. They started the season off, the 2022 season off not the best way, but then they capped it off by beating Bama, making it to the SEC championship, and losing to Georgia. I mean, losing to Georgia is losing to Georgia. But now, going into this season, there were such high hopes, with the defense, Harold Perkins being one of the best defensive players in the country. He hadn't really, you've seen him be dominant, but still the defense as a whole has not come together. Jaden Daniels has been shaky in some moments, but he's also, delivered in some moments. But I thought, they were going to run the table, beat FSU week 1. They didn't do that. They lost by double digits, and then now they've suffered their second loss to Ole Miss. And so I was definitely wrong about LSU. It looks like they're out of the playoff race unless they go on some miraculous run again and then this time beat Georgia. But I don't see that happening. I think as of right now, it looks like it's going to be either A&M or Bama competing for the West.
Yeah.
But you never know.
I mean, yeah.
But a team I was right about was the Auburn Tigers. I was right that I felt like even in year 1 with Hugh Freeze, they'd probably still be a little bit more competitive than people thought. You picked Cal to beat them. Cal didn't beat them.
That was a close game, though. It was a close game.
And I also picked them to play Bama and Georgia pretty close, and they've already played Georgia pretty close, as we talked about last segment. And we saw this past weekend. Now they still got to play Bama, but they get Bama at home. They still, they go to Baton Rouge next weekend. They're on a bye this week, so Auburn's got some time to breathe. And kind of figure out the passing game. Like I said, if their passing game can just improve just a little bit,
yeah. Peyton Thorne, and I feel like I don't want to say it's similar to Bama because obviously I think Auburn's passing game is quite a bit of a step back from Jalen Milroe. But I mean, both of these guys, Jalen Milroe and Peyton Thorne, both need to make that step as a passer that you just really haven't seen quite yet.
Yeah, and you're starting to see Milroe do that a little bit. You saw it against Ole Miss and against Mississippi State. Him trying to, make reads and stay in the pocket. But Peyton Thorne, I think it's a little bit of maybe not him, but also maybe some of the receiving talent Auburn has. It's just not there yet. Like they had some drops against Georgia, some drops against A&M. So I don't really think it's all on Peyton Thorne. But they're not where they need to be at quarterback. And I think Hugh Freeze is going to go back into the portal again this offseason and probably go get a guy that can come in and make an impact right away, especially in the passing game.
No, 100%. And another team, too, that we were also right about would be the Florida State Seminoles. We both talked about how, obviously.
We were wrong about them losing to Clemson, though.
Yeah, I at the same time, though, we knew that they were going to have a big year. And we both talked about it preseason that we thought they had a huge shot at winning the ACC with Jordan Travis and what Mike Norvell has built there with Peyton Bethune and all these other guys too.
And they have delivered on a grand scale. Like what Keon Coleman looks like he could possibly win the Blitnikoff Award. He looks like one of the best receivers in the country.
and everyone else, there's everything offensively and defensively is clicking between Trey Benson running the ball.
Jared Verse on the edge.
Exactly. And I mean, yes, they've had some close games. Like their week 3 win over Boston College was a lot closer than a lot of people expected, especially after beating LSU the way that they did week 1. But obviously we found out LSU isn't the team that everyone hyped them up to be.
And then they got a huge win against Clemson on the road. It's still Clemson. It's still on the road. That's a tough environment to go into. They're not the real Death Valley LSU is, but still that's a tough game or tough atmosphere to go into.
Yeah, and I mean the fact that they're already 2-0 in ACC conference play. I mean they've only played Boston College in Clemson, but playing Clemson at Clemson is not easy. And I mean the fact that they were able to pull off that win. I mean they're already 4-0, starting off the season hot. Great start for Mike Norvell considering last year they were 10-3. And they had 3 conference losses. So they're exactly where they want to be. And I mean, we said that they would probably have a chance at winning the ACC. And I mean, man, they're looking like a huge contender for the playoff right now, too.
Yeah, and I like where they're at. Another team we were wrong about, and I think a lot of people were wrong about, is Colorado. I mean, we did not expect them to come out and play the way they've played lately. Now, they kind of got knocked back down to earth against Oregon and USC. Could have beat USC, but still you expected USC to win that game, and they did. But they beat TCU on the road. Then they beat Nebraska. Of course, had a close game with Colorado State. Now this week they can probably take a breath and beat Arizona State. I think they'll win that game.
Oh, easily.
But I mean, to see Deion have as much success as he's having it in his first year, it's very, especially if you're a Colorado fan. It's very promising to see. And how long Deion stays there, I still have questions about how long he's going to stay there at Colorado.
But at the same time, though, I mean, not to interrupt you, but like last year they had 1 win the whole season, and the fact
now they've tripled.
Yeah, I mean, literally, they're 3-2 now. I think their over/under before the season started was either 5.5 or 6.
It was five or 6.
Yeah, I think it was 5.5 total wins, and a lot of people had them under because it's hard to bounce back from a 1-win season, even with the new head coach, and then getting all these new guys in the portal. I mean, it's hard to build that chemistry. But I mean, man, Deion really has turned this team around. Obviously, Colorado's getting a lot of hype, but they do deserve it. And I mean, after they played last week against USC, I mean, they could still contend in the Pac-12 just pending how they play the rest of this year. Obviously, they have to play Oregon State further down the road. They have a tough game at UCLA against this UCLA defense.
They play Utah.
Yeah, they play at Utah and at Washington State. And I mean, all those teams are dominating the Pac-12 right now. I mean,
but I think some of those games are winnable. Maybe not against Utah or Washington State, but I think they'll still. I think they'll make a bowl game. I really do.
No, easily. I think they easily make a bowl game. And I mean, Brandon McCartney either way is probably happy about this right now. And I mean, Colorado can still compete right now. So we'll see. But that's another team that we were just completely off about.
Another team we were right about, though, I think was Texas. I didn't expect Texas to beat Alabama. I didn't think they were there just yet, but the way they went into Tuscaloosa and they really manhandled Alabama for most of that game, and they come out on top by 10 points, double digits. But we thought they could be back and win the Big 12 this year, especially in their last year. We both said that their offense was going to be very good. We knew that Quinn Ewers being back healthy was going to be significant. And adding A.D. Mitchell from Georgia, they still have Xavier Worthy. Their recruiting is top notch. And I'll get more into this and when we make our predictions for the Red River Shootout, but their defense has just stepped up tremendously. They're nasty in the front seven. They're good in the secondary, and they're good. They're good all around. I mean, they have a complete team. You could even make a case with Auburn's struggle against Auburn that Texas or Florida State could be potentially the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah, most definitely.
Or even Washington, really.
Yeah, literally. And, I mean, that kind of leads me into looking at something else that we did at the very beginning of the season. We gave our top 5 Heisman predictions, or our top 5 quarterback predictions. And, that also kind of tied into Heisman. But obviously, we both said Caleb Williams was still going to be number 1.
He's still leading the Heisman.
Literally. Votes. I had Michael Penix Jr. at 2. You had Drake May at 2. Then we had that flip-flop for number 3.
Still kind of interchangeable. Yeah. I mean, they're both playing really well. Drake May's kind of going under the radar just because he plays at North Carolina. I think not a lot of people are talking about Drake May. I don't know. I don't know what North Carolina's record is right now. I think they're undefeated. Yeah,
But I mean,
4-0. So
yeah, and I mean, your top 5 was pretty spot on for the most part too, because you also had Bo Nix in there, and you had Sam Hartman.
Thank you.
And so I mean, I must say, like, pretty solid top. And I mean, obviously, I'm living up to the Sam Hartman hype. I love what he's doing for Notre Dame, and I mean, Notre Dame still has a clear shot
to make the playoff.
Potentially make them if they win out. And I mean, they have a tough schedule.
They have to win out though, because they can't suffer another loss because they don't have a conference championship. We all wish they'd jump into a conference, but they won't. I mean, that's nothing we can control.
And obviously, in all these other sports, like they're in the ACC for basketball, they're in the Big Ten for hockey. It makes no sense. Like literally, just pick a conference, and I don't know. It makes absolutely no sense.
Some people said they should go to the SEC for football, but I mean.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, you look at the rest of their schedule too. They play at Louisville this week, which we'll talk about on our Pick'em segment. Then the following week, they host USC. Then they host Pittsburgh. Then they're at Clemson. Then they host Wake Forest, Sam Hartman's former team. And then they go to Stanford. But I mean, their next, like 3 out of their next 4 games are probably more of their tough games, playing at Louisville and then hosting USC and going to Clemson. Yeah. And I mean, we'll see what Sam Hartman's. I think Sam Hartman has already shown that.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame probably will win out. But, I mean, man, lots of...
I think the biggest game on their schedule is that game versus USC, just because I think they can win that game, and we'll pick that game next week, but for sure. But I think that's really the game, because like a lot of the other games are against unranked teams. So, I mean, and Notre Dame does have the stigma of playing well in the regular season, but then when they get to the playoff, they can't compete with the bigger teams like Bama, Ohio State, LSU, Georgia. So I mean, we'll see with Notre Dame. It's still a lot to kind of wait and see. But I do think they could certainly win out.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And I mean, we'll see what they can do. But I mean, man, it's been crazy to see how completely off we were on most of our picks. But I mean, for the most part, that's how most experts in
that's the beauty.
Everyone has their own opinion.
That's the beauty of making picks. I mean, even the experts, quote unquote experts, are wrong. A lot of, like college game days set all picked Alabama to win the national title except for Desmond Howard. He always picks Michigan, and I don't think Bama's going to win the national title this year. I mean, they all picked Bama to win, and that's probably our curse right now. But we all get stuff wrong, so I mean, it's not like
we'll see. I mean, Ohio State's still coming out on top. Just wait, trust the process. But I mean, that's another team we're potentially right about though too. Not Ohio State, but Michigan. I mean, obviously Michigan still hasn't really played any big teams yet. But
if I had to pick the national championship game right now, I'd probably go Texas and Michigan.
Texas and Michigan
right now.
I would probably completely flip-flop you, and I would go Florida State, Ohio State. But
you're so biased.
I mean, hey, we'll see. We'll see. But, I mean, thank you for tuning into this segment. We're about to have Taylor Tanner on for our college football pick'em segment, and we'll get right into our picks for this week. Welcome back, and welcome to the Week 6 Back of the End Zone special Pick'em segment. And today, we have special guest Taylor Tanner with us here today. Very knowledgeable in college football. Great guy. He's in a bunch of classes with Bryant and I here at the University of South Alabama.
And he's an equipment manager for the football team. A lot of the helmets and everything you see, he helps with a lot of that. So they're top notch on the equipment.
And he's also got his own little podcast too called Time Out with Taylor Tanner.
Definitely.
So check that out. But so right now I want to dive straight into our first slate that we have for our 7 games for the Week 6 Pick'em segment. First game we're diving into is number 10 Notre Dame heads to 25 Louisville. And man, I guess this is kind of an underrated game. I'm not really hyping this game up too much, though, just because of the fact that Notre Dame obviously is coming off a big win at Duke last week. Obviously came back there towards the end. Sam Hartman played well. In the end, Audric Estime had that huge game-winning run right there before Riley Leonard got injured. But Louisville's, I feel like, not where they want to be. They're 5-0. They barely scraped by NC State last week, won by 3. And I think Notre Dame is just a more polished team here, has a better defense, have a better offense. They have Sam Hartman. They have arguably the best running back in college football. I think Notre Dame takes this one with ease.
This game is tough for me because I don't think anybody expected Louisville to be undefeated this far into the season. I mean, their schedule hasn't exactly been a cakewalk, especially like their caliber of competition. You know, they beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's kind of underrated this year. Boston College, we saw what they did against Florida State. They're always, competitive, but I think I like Notre Dame as well. I think the talent just kind of overpowers Louisville. But, I mean, Louisville could get this upset at home. It is in Louisville, but I go with Notre Dame.
Hey, man. Louisville's quarterback, his last name is Plummer. He's got to suck, man. Ain't no way Louisville's winning this game against Notre Dame. Sam Hartman, touchdown Jesus, is going to save the day. Audric Estime is a dog. This Notre Dame team's going all the way. They're winning. They're killing Louisville by 20+.
Oh, I would say they're probably going to kill Louisville by 20+.
I think it's going to be closer than that, but hey, we'll see.
I don't know. Louisville doesn't stand a chance to me. But next game on the slate, going to a Pac-12 matchup. Both of these teams are coming off of bye weeks. We have number 13 Washington State headed to UCLA. Obviously, both these teams before their bye weeks. In week 4, we saw UCLA lose to Utah 14-7. Really close game there. Obviously, Cam Rising did not play in that game. And Washington State's coming off of their 38-35 victory over Oregon State. And, I mean, obviously, Washington State has Cam Ward right now. I'm all about the Pac-12 quarterback hype. I love Cam Ward. He's a great quarterback. I mean, he's completed like 75% of his passes this year, almost passed for 1,500 yards. He has 13 touchdowns, 0 picks, couple hundred rushing yards, couple touchdowns there. I think he's phenomenal. The only question that I have about that is UCLA has a top 10 defense in the country right now. Looking at overall defense, and it's at UCLA. I really think Washington State could win this game with Cam Ward, but this is my upset pick. I have UCLA winning at home, shutting down Cam Ward.
That home thing for this game is not very relevant because I don't know. I mean, we played at UCLA last year and they barely drew any ton of crowd. It almost seemed like we had more fans there than UCLA did. But I don't mean they might get up for a game like this. Who knows? But I like Cam Ward. He's making a strong argument for the Heisman. I mean, it's literally all the Pac-12 quarterbacks right now who are leading that race, and Cam Ward is making as strong of a case as anybody. So I like Wazoo, the Cougars, to get it done on the road.
Hey, man, Cam Ward is that guy. Washington State's going to win this game. But like Brian was saying, UCLA has no fans at their games, man. What are they doing? The Rose Bowl Stadium's beautiful.
Most of them are going to go watch USC.
Yeah, probably. I mean, they've got a better team. UCLA has a top 10 defense, but who cares, man? Cam Ward, Washington State, number 13 in the nation. They're winning this game. It's not even going to be close.
I'll agree with that, but just the way that UCLA held Utah down, I don't know. I think that UCLA did a great job at just playing against Utah. And, I mean, obviously, Utah didn't have Cam Rising. But Utah is still playing really well right now. And I don't know. I think UCLA is taking that one. I mean, we'll see. But, I mean, then again. But this takes me into our next matchup. We got a ranked matchup here, another ranked matchup, second one of the day in this slate for both teams. We have number 23 LSU headed to number 21 Mizzou in Columbia, Missouri. Obviously, LSU's 3-2. They're coming off a huge loss to Ole Miss last week. I'm happy Ole Miss won that game. I picked that pick, and I mean, dude, very happy for Ole Miss, especially after that non-call touchdown that Ole Miss had that didn't go their way. Them being able to come back and win that game was huge for them. But I mean, LSU's in a spot right now where this is a must-win game because they don't want to start off the season 3-3 at all. And obviously, Mizzou right now their biggest win is beating Kansas State at home by like 3. But the thing that I want to take into effect here is the fact that LSU and Mizzou have only played each other 3 times in their history. And Mizzou leads that series 2-1. And the last time they played one another, it was in Columbia, Missouri, and Mizzou beat LSU in 2020, 45-41. I have Mizzou beating LSU in this game. I honestly don't think Mizzou is the better team, but I seriously just think that they're gonna pull this one off.
I like the job Eli Drinkowitz, and I'm a huge Eli Drinkowitz fan. I like the way he compels himself at media days. I like the way he leads his team. What a job he's done, especially starting off 5-0. That's huge, especially for Missouri. Dude, I like Missouri's roster. Brady Cook is a dog. Luther Burden is a dog. LSU has been very disappointing. I picked them to win it all and go undefeated, and that's now shot. But I don't know. I don't know what to think of LSU's defense. They gave up over 700 yards worth of offense to Ole Miss, and you can't get that fixed in a week. So I'm going Mizzou here. I like the spot that Missouri is in right here.
Okay, this is going to be a really close game, but, man, I can't stand Brian Kelly, man. That LSU Tigers team just – oh, my goodness, I can't stand him. I hope Mizzou mollywops them, but it's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be real close. I have Missouri by 3.
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
that's going to be a graphic that probably comes back to bite us in the ass, but we'll see.
We'll see.
We will see. But staying in the SEC, another big game. Not jumping to the Bama game quite yet, but we have number 20 Kentucky at number 1 Georgia. Obviously, Georgia last week, barely scraped by it. Jordan Hare, 27-20.
Huge scare at Auburn.
I think the only reason why they won that game is because Brock Bowers, and I think we can all agree on that. If it weren't for Brock Bowers, they would have been screwed. And at the same time, though, too, Auburn, dude, I don't know, man. Auburn just couldn't get it done against Georgia when they should have. And, I mean, this is an interesting situation, too, because Kentucky, 5-0, coming off a big win over Florida last week. Not that Florida's great or anything, but, I mean, Devin Leary's having a great year. I don't know. I think this could be close, but the fact that it's in Athens, and, Georgia tends to always have those close games, I feel like, beginning to midseason. Yeah. I think Georgia wins this one by probably 20+.
This was a hype matchup a couple years ago. I think Game Day was at this game a couple years ago when it was Will Levis going into Athens. The problem with Georgia right now is they're not the team. They're not the team that we've seen the last 2 years. They're hurt in the running back room. They don't have as much depth in the running back room. Their front seven's been kind of disappointing. They gave up almost 200 yards rushing to Auburn. Darquez Hunter, Peyton Thorne, who I didn't realize was as fast as he looked on Saturday. If Auburn had any type of passing game, they win that game, probably by 2 touchdowns. Auburn played that well. The Jordan Hare crowd was hype. It's always a battle for any team that goes into Jordan Hare. This might be my upset pick. I'm leaning. I want to take Kentucky. I want to hype up the potential undefeated matchup next week between Mizzou and Kentucky. I just don't see it. Athens is too hard of a place to play. I like Georgia, but close. Ray Davis is a dog. He had almost 300 yards rushing against Florida last week. If they can keep the Bulldogs on their heels the entire game, Kentucky can come out. But I just like Georgia. I can't.
Man, Ray Davis is the guy. And Ray Davis is going to come into Georgia and show those Bulldogs who the real Bulldog is. And that's Ray Davis. Almost 300 against Florida. Florida has their defense is all right. It's not Georgia's defense, but Georgia allowed, I don't know the stat, but so many rushing yards against Auburn. And Ray Davis is a better running back than anybody on Auburn's team. Kentucky's going to upset the number 1 ranked Bulldogs.
Okay.
I mean, I could see it. Ray Davis is averaging almost 8 yards per carry. So, I mean,
it's definitely possible.
Dude is definitely an absolute dog.
But I still have, and we'll get to it later on in the season, but remember in our preseason predictions, I don't have Georgia getting upset until when they're at Tennessee. So I'm going to keep it that way.
Tennessee is not going to beat Georgia. Be real. Tennessee sucks this year, man. They're awful.
Well,
They're awful.
Hey, we'll see what happens. But this leads me into finally the Big Ten matchup on the slate of the week. We have undefeated Maryland, the one undefeated team left that's in the Power 5 that is still unranked. They're 5-0, and they head to Columbus and play Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State's coming off of their bye idle week. The last time Ohio State played was when they beat Notre Dame 17-14. Maryland's coming off a big win over Indiana last week, winning 44-17. Obviously, Maryland is led by Talia, the brother of Tua. And Talia, man, he's balling out, man. He's always been the leader of this Maryland offense since he's been there. And I feel like every year, Maryland has just their offense has progressively gotten better with Talia. And the thing is, every year since 2020, Maryland has always started off hot in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Like in non-con, they'll always start off 3-0, 4-0, 5-0
until they get to this game,
and then they lose to either last year was Michigan, who was ranked number 2. The year before was Iowa, who was ranked number 5, and then the year before that was Ohio State. So every year they start off pretty well, and then they go into a top 5 matchup and then get blown out. But the thing with this matchup is last year Ohio State won the game 43-30. But going into the final minute of the game, the score was 33-30.
Yeah.
Ohio State got a field goal and then got lucky, and on Maryland's final drive, got a scoop and score. So I think this game is going to be close. And as an Ohio State fan, obviously I'm going to pick Ohio State to win. It's also in Columbus, but I think that this game will be close to the end. Kyle McCord still has struggled to find any other receivers other than Marvin Harrison, Namika Egbuka, and Cade Stover's been there, but Kyle McCord really needs to step it up and get some passing touchdowns this game, but Ohio State comes out on top.
Maryland is probably one of the most experienced teams in the country. I mean, what Mike Locksley, former Alabama offensive coordinator, has done there has been pretty remarkable. He's managed to keep Talia, especially. I remember him coming out and saying that there were teams that were trying to get him to transfer last year, especially a couple teams in the SEC. I won't name who, even though I think one of them is in Auburn, Alabama. But anyway, if this game were in Maryland, I probably would take Maryland. I like Ohio State, but I don't think Ohio State wins by 20. The 20 points that they're favored by. I think Maryland at least covers, and they keep it a game the entire way.
Oh, I'm with you, Brian. I think it's going to be a close game, but Kyle McCord just isn't the Ohio State QB we've seen in the past. We see guys at Ohio State, they can sling that thing. Kyle McCord really can't. He's not good. Talia is way, way better than Kyle McCord. And Talia is going to show why he is a potential NFL starting QB, maybe even a first-round pick with this game. Maryland by 10.
Ooh,
damn. Okay.
He's picking all the upsets.
Okay. I mean, we'll see. I'll be honest. This is like probably the biggest game that I'm most nervous for this season as of right now. It's our biggest test. I think this is even a bigger test than Notre Dame was. And it's just the fact that we have a big game at home. And obviously, Talia and Kyle McCord really hasn't. He's progressed. He's definitely progressed from week 1 against Indiana. But the fact of the matter is he's had 6 passing touchdowns, 3 to Marvin Harrison Jr. and 3 to Amika Egbuka. And those receivers could do that with any quarterback. So it's like he really does need to step it up this game. But now, this next matchup, we're going into one of the biggest college football rivalries in the history of college football. I wouldn't say the biggest, but
one of the biggest in recent memory, because it wasn't really a rivalry until the first meeting between these two when A&M came into the SEC. So.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not talking about that yet. That's the last game. I'm talking about first. We have number 12 Oklahoma.
That's right.
Headed to number 3 Texas. The Red River Showdown this weekend. Obviously, last year Texas completely blew Oklahoma out of the water. Texas won 49-0. And before that, though, Oklahoma had won 4 straight. That's also when Lincoln Riley was there, but Oklahoma was on a run. I think this is the best Oklahoma's been since Lincoln Riley after Lincoln Riley left. They obviously have Dylan Gabriel, who's one of the better passers in the country, too, having a great start to his season. He had 366 passing yards and 3 touchdowns last week. Like, really great year. They have one of the better linebackers in college football in Danny Stutzman. But obviously, they're playing Texas. And it's at a neutral site, but Texas obviously has Quinn Ewers. They have all these other weapons between Xavier Worthy and just I think Texas is the better team here. I think Oklahoma will give them a fight, but I think Texas comes out on top, and they probably will win by 30+, in my opinion.
What's been surprising for Texas is not their offense, because Sark is one of the greatest play callers in the game right now. And he'll probably go down as one of the greatest when he finishes. And the offense was never going to be a problem for them, especially with Quinn Ewers, the weapons that they have on offense. The defense has been what's impressing to me, only allowing, under 400 yards per game. They have really stepped it up, especially their front 7. But so is Oklahoma, especially from where they were a year ago. I think people think this might be the over under 60. I think this is probably a lower scoring game than people think. And I'm still butthurt over the Texas beating Alabama, so I'm going with the Sooners to upset Texas and win this game. Boomer Sooner.
Hey man, you saying Texas and Oklahoma, man? This is gonna be a tough game. It's gonna be tough. Texas did, as Josh mentioned, blow them out last time. But Oklahoma's got Dylan Gabriel. That. Dylan Gabriel is a dog. Ever since he was at UCF, he came down with that big injury, like his last year at UCF. Then came to Oklahoma and he was balling out. But I have a bold prediction right now, all right? Let's be prepared, all right? It's a doozy. Dylan Gabriel, 4th quarter, it's tied game. Dylan Gabriel goes down with an injury. Freshman quarterback General Booty gets in and wins the game for Oklahoma. Booty for Heisman.
Okay.
Hey, that could definitely happen. I honestly like that. And that's been happening a lot lately, too. Obviously, Riley Leonard last week, but quarterbacks going down in the 4th quarter when they're needed the most.
Yeah, and I picked Kansas last week to upset Texas, and Jalen Daniels didn't even play.
And
I think
me off.
I think if he does play, I think Kansas keeps that game a lot closer. But for a while, Kansas did keep that game close. I was actually had a hope that Kansas could come out and win, but oh well. I'm sorry, Texas fans, but I'm still picking y'all to be upset this week.
Now, I still got Texas. I guess I'm the only one picking Texas. But now, going into our last matchup of the day, the matchup that Bryant thought I was talking about, but obviously not. We have number 11 Alabama headed to College Station playing Texas A&M. And obviously, this has been a little bit of a rivalry the past 2 years because you look, last year, Bama barely squeaked by in Tuscaloosa 24-20. And the year before, A&M won 41-38.
Was Zach Calzada?
Yeah, nail biter at the end. So, I mean, this is a very, both teams 4-1. Obviously, Bama's ranked 11th. A&M unranked at all. A&M's coming off a win over Arkansas 34-22. And the thing to me in this matchup is that A&M's defense has been stepping up. They literally only allowed Arkansas to have 174 total yards. And I mean, their defense has just been stepping up all year. Yeah, they lost to that brutal loss in Miami, but I think A&M upsets Alabama. Just with recent memory, A&M has the home field advantage, man. Jimbo is coming for blood, and I think A&M upsets number 11 Bama in College Station.
I want to know your prediction first.
All right, man. Bama's not losing another game this season. After that loss to Texas,
right.
man, Nick Saban's got these boys under control. He had the little week where he's like, I'm not going to start Milroe. We're going to start these other guys. And they absolutely sucked. They beat USF only 17-3. Come on now, Bama. But finally, Milroe's got confidence. Nick Saban has told Milroe that he is that guy. Milroe is going to go off, and he's probably going to have a Heisman performance against A&M. I'm thinking 400 passing yards, 200 rushing.
Good Lord. All right. All right. Well, so the matchup for me to watch in this game is Alabama's offensive line, which is bottom of the league in allowing sacks, going up against that nasty A&M defensive front that is number 1 in sacks, number 1 in pressures. They completely dismantled Auburn. They dismantled KJ Jefferson in Arkansas. They are nasty up front, and they're gonna and if Bama can't throw the football, if they can't get anything established in a passing game, they're gonna be able to do what Texas did and pin their ears back and stop the run and really kind of bottle Milroe up when he tries to escape. I don't know. I still haven't seen a complete game from Milroe yet. I mean, it still took him some time to get started in the game against Mississippi State. I'm going with A&M. I got to go with A&M here.
You're just trying to do that reverse voodoo crap.
But I can make a case for A&M here. I couldn't make a case for Mississippi State last week. I can make a case for A&M because Kyle Fields going to be rocking. That atmosphere is just as good as anybody in the country. They're a cult. Texas A&M is a cult. The midnight yell they do, they always get hyped up for that. But I'm going with the Aggies here. Jimbo to beat Saban for a second time.
I mean, Texas A&M, and that's why I'm picking them too, is just they've been stepping it up defensively. And especially with Milroe's lack of passing efficiency thus far, that's where I think they struggle.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like that. I feel like the Aggies get the win here. I don't know. It's very tough.
No, I would definitely agree with you, but that is going to wrap it up for our college football Week 6 Pick'em segment. Thank you, Taylor, for coming on. We'll see how you do. And, I mean, you got to beat 6 out of 7 picks to potentially make it up there and get up there in the leaderboard. So
You want to take me out to dinner if I win?
something like that. We'll see what happens.
His girlfriend's leading, so if that tells you
6 or 7,
anything, a little favoritism there. I'm joking.
I mean, we'll see. But, heck yeah, thank y'all for tuning in, and thank you, Taylor, for coming on.